Welcome to the channel. My name is Jodie Knight. You can find me over on eToro. My live portfolio there is going to be linked in the description down below. But other than that, in this video, we're going to talk about the daily chart, the weekly chart, the short and long-term, long-dated options interest. We'll talk a little bit about my price targets, where I'm going to add, where I'm going to trim. As well as that, we'll look at the general market, what data came out, what data is coming out, and if there's any good Tesla news that we're interested in. Let's just jump straight into it. Okay, so diving straight into Tesla, I know everyone's going to want to talk about the 10-10 event, but we're just going to look at the technicals for now, okay? So bear with me on this one. Looking at the technicals, I did trim a bit at the top. I got a little bit nervy and added back, mainly because price was hesitating, and I doubted myself a little bit. I was still underweight, so I still had some dry powder just in case. But we all saw the price action. We gapped down. Now, the good thing about this is Tesla does love filling its gaps to the upside. However, that might not happen for a while. If we don't get a pump on earnings, then we'll see some more downside. But the price, when it dropped, it's really holding up a lot better than I thought it would. It's hanging on this bull market band with some kind of spinning top candles on this nice volume shelf as well. If I move it, it's a bit easier to see. Now, we've got a lot of confluence underneath us again with the resistance at 212, 206. And then we've got another volume shelf at 200, which is a good psychological level as well. So I think downside support is quite strong. I would expect a sell-off for earnings to keep us above the black trend line that's going diagonal there. That might not happen, but that's if there is a sell-off. I'll talk a little bit more about what I think is going to happen with earnings, or, well, more how it's going to relate to the stock price. But upside resistance, we're definitely probably going to get stuck at that Fibonacci level again and this 264 level. But even if earnings was really good, I don't think we're going to be getting a 21% move. That would be a bit too generous. Maybe we just get a gap fill or whatnot. But yeah, RSI is a little bit cold, so there is room for some a bounce here. It's possible we get a pump, fill the gap, and then we fade. The MACD Plus looks good as well. Not as good as it did, but we did have some red flags here when we went overbought right at the top, which triggered me to kind of trim. And retail's really starting to get some ground on this one, which I don't necessarily like, but maybe that changes at earnings. I think Wall Street have got a bit of a bee in their bonnet, and flow's gone bearish on this one. I know I didn't talk too much about my price targets when we looked at the daily chart. Mainly that's because I was hoping we'd get a little bit more details regarding the numbers and timelines and all that stuff, so I could update my models for a more accurate number. But we didn't get that, so my forecasts still look crazy as heck, and I'm not comfortable putting those crazy numbers out there in case I get booed off stage, as it were. But it's certainly still overpriced if it's just a car company, but I don't think it is. I think we're starting to see a lot of changing in the energy sector, but we'll talk about that later. Other than that, though, this still looks like a really good basing pattern to me. Yes, it's got quite a large range. I think the range is about 50%. But it's building a really nice volume wedge here. So I would expect price to stay above this kind of orange level when it does whatever it wants to do. RSI could go either way on the weekly, so we could see more downside, more upside. There's plenty either side on that one. On the MACD Plus, though, we did get the overbought right at the top there, so no surprise we had a good sell-off there. So that indicator is normally pretty decent as well. The Golden Cross is still active. It's not really closing or opening, so at least it's stable, so we'll take that. Retail is washed out on the weekly, and flow is kind of bullish but stalled, so not too bad overall. The weekly chart looks a lot better than the daily chart, but I'm not kind of short-term trading this one. This is a long-term position for me. Scooting on over to the open options interest for Tesla. Ooh, knocked something off my desk. There's a lot of buckshot here. There's strikes everywhere you look, every dollar, every $0.50 as well. So, I mean, definitely got really strong support at $200. We've got really strong resistance at $250, and even stronger. I mean, that's not happening in a week, is it? Especially with this downside. But I think this was just uncertainty around the 10-10 event. But let's look at next week, because that's going to include the earnings event. So let's check it out. This looks better. This one is a lot more normal. So we've still got that really strong support at $200. I wouldn't imagine that level would break, but if earnings were particularly bad and Wall Street really didn't like it. But I think maybe earnings aren't going to be a disaster, since price is hesitating a little bit here. But we'll see. I think a lot of it's going to come down to the Q&A. We'll talk about that in the news section. Resistance to the upside is $270, though. I mean, that'd be quite a heck of a move. That's probably not happening in a week, but the expected move here to get into 245 could be possible. But I would think we either get a gap fill or we fall back down to kind of the 207 area. But we'll see. Let me look a week after what people think. So people are a little bit more bullish after earnings. Let's take a look at 2025. Bit more rangy. Super bullish. I mean, I don't think we're getting 610 by January 2025 by any stretch of the imagination. Let me check 2026. I mean, these targets are possible in the turn of 26. Like I say, that's kind of my time frame when I expect things to start looking better from a fundamental point of view for the company. I mean, Tesla could shock us in the meantime. You never know. They scale up so fast. It's really impressive. No other company does it like they do. But yeah, a lot of people thinking that it's going to be an absolute train wreck though as well. So keep an eye on that. I think all these people are going to be wrong. They'll be holding dust by the end of 2025, but we'll see. Tesla news. We've got a fair bit to touch on. Obviously, we had the 10-10 event. It was great. I mean, I mentioned in the video the week before that I think analysts were going to be a bit disappointed because they were all talking about the affordable car, but it was a RoboCab event. They were only going to be touching on the RoboCab. I was actually a little bit surprised when they announced it was going to be called We Robot. That did kind of indicate we'd see some of the bots there, but that wasn't going to be in my initial expectation. And then to have the RoboVan announced as well, that was just didn't see that coming. We knew these things were on the agenda. We can see the covered cars here. Obviously, the two on the left now are going to be uncovered in the next updated picture, and the one on the right is probably the affordable car. But no details on that. I'm not too surprised. That's probably going to be a separate event. That's a separate vehicle. We'll get a separate launch at a later date. The event was a little bit light on the details. A lot of people not happy about it, but I mean, I would have preferred to have more details so I could update some of my models, but we do have earnings coming up very shortly, so I would expect more FSD details on that. But other than that, I actually really like the look of the Cybercab. I thought it was great. There was 20 of them at the event, so it's not a prototype. It looks ready to go. There was one RoboVan, I think, so that still is a prototype, so there could be some changes still to come on that one. A lot of people didn't like it. I actually really liked it. The use cases on this one are a lot bigger than just kind of public transport. Private transport obviously will be a pretty good one as well. Imagine retrofitting this with some kind of, living quarters, so a bed and a little kitchen, kind of like an RV motorhome style thing. Me and my partner love to do long road trips. We're doing Scotland 500 next year. I mean, that van would be amazing to have then. Maybe we'd even do the Europe, hit loads of the European countries. But I mean, that's way off in the future. And as this is a prototype vehicle, I don't expect there to be any super fine details on production and all that kind of stuff. We also had the bots. We saw them moving a lot more human-like. Yes, they were teleoperated. A lot of people moaning about there, but I mean, they're kind of overlooking the fact that there's a big industry for just teleoperating these robots as well. So that's something else that I hadn't even factored into my crazy models. So probably won't even bother, to be honest. The numbers were already ridiculous. But I mean, the hand movements and the grip and stuff is a lot better. Speed needs to be improved. So again, there's still a lot of progress to be made on these bots, but they're certainly looking like they're going to be useful, which is the main thing. Some stuff we were missing from the event. There was the McDonald's teaser and the Matrix Hyundai hinting, but we didn't get anything like that. So maybe that's to come later on. Maybe they were just hinting and trying to get the brain juices flowing that we're going to be eating Uber Eats' lunch kind of thing. So maybe Ford will still be the first company to license, which is the company I thought it would be. So we'll see. The elections are still to come. I do think Tesla's stock is going to fall down if Trump doesn't win, but we'll have to wait and see. That would be a dip that I buy. Other news that happened, not technically a Tesla event, was the SpaceX catching the booster. That was just ridiculous. The pace of innovation from SpaceX under Musk is just insane. And a lot of haters still saying that FSD is not happening. FSD is real, and it's coming probably sooner than a lot of people think. A lot of people putting it way off in the future. The main thing I'm excited about with the booster and the Starship, Artemis 3 is scheduled for September 2026. That's putting people on the moon. That is crazy. I mean, there's a lot of stuff still to do. There's more work to be done on the suits and the lander, I think, and all that. But people are going to be sitting on this before we can blink. I don't know about you, but I feel like the older I get, the faster the years go by. So it's going to feel like next week when this is going ahead. But yeah, overall, the event was lacking in details, but really good. I really like the look of the cab. It looks so much better than I ever thought it would. It looks like it's going to fit right at home on the roads. I want one. Probably not going to be coming to the UK for a while because the UK is a bit boring. But might have to move. I did want to mention, though, that the main reason I wanted to talk about the SpaceX kind of event was that Musk might be in a really good mood. And I know that sounds really trivial, but the earnings calls for Tesla are so much better when Elon is in a good mood, when he's energized, when when he's got that predator mentality. If he's fed up, the earnings calls really are lackluster. I think this is going to make a difference when we come to the Q&A, because I think analysts are going to be really going for the jugular. They're going to want to know the details if they don't get mentioned earlier in the call, and even if they do get mentioned earlier in the call, there's going to be a lot of questions around what's mentioned. So brace yourself. Hopefully he's in a good mood and that maintains, but he might not be, so fingers crossed. Economic data. So yesterday was just the Fed speeches. Didn't listen to them. Didn't really find them too relevant. But there's been so many speeches. There's not much more any of them could surely say. Today, though, we've got the Empire State Manufacturing Index. Now, it's expected to tick up, and it's been historically low. If we take a look at this one, when it loads. Manufacturing, as you can see, has been a hot pile of garbage for a while, and even if we zoom out here, let's do 5 year. Let's just do max. We can see it's very volatile, and probably since 2022 we've been just terrible. But I mean, it seems to be more in contraction territory than expansion, but maybe that changes in the future, but it's not something I'm super betting on. Other than that, though, Red Book year over year, that's been running up quite a bit. Well, not quite a bit, but consumers are active. Consumer inflation expectations, I think, is going to be a good driver for the market. If expectation comes in quite low, I think we're off to the races again, and we can see some continuation in this rally. But if the expectation is higher, then we're probably going to cool off a little bit. It's not marked as key data, but I do think the market's going to be paying attention to this one, seeing as the data is a bit light today. More Fed speeches and monthly budget statement. I think that one's probably going to actually be quite interesting. Might have to look into that one. That's a wrap then. If you like this video, give it a share, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you tomorrow for the next update.